Have you ever had one of those mornings when you suddenly decide, that's it? I'm changing my life. Maybe you wake up early, look at yourself in the mirror, and decide that from today, everything is going to be different. You're going to read every day. You're going to exercise. You're going to stop wasting time on your phone. You're going to study consistently. You're going to work on your career. Maybe you're even going to start that project you've been thinking about for months. And because you're feeling motivated, you make a plan. You write down your goals. You create a schedule. You download a productivity app. Maybe you even buy a new notebook because somehow a new notebook makes us believe we're about to become a completely different person. And for the first few days, it works. You wake up early. You read. You exercise. You finish your work. You feel proud. You think, finally, I've become disciplined. Then something happens. You have a stressful day. You sleep badly. You get busy. You don't feel like doing anything. And suddenly, the routine that seemed so easy a few days ago feels impossible. You skip one day. Then another. And eventually, you find yourself saying the sentence you've probably said many times before, I just can't stay consistent. But what if that isn't true? What if you actually can be consistent? What if the real problem isn't that you don't have enough discipline? What if you've simply been using the wrong strategy? Because here's the uncomfortable truth, most people don't fail because they lack motivation. They fail because they depend on motivation. And there's a huge difference between those two things. Motivation can help you begin. But motivation was never meant to carry you through an entire journey. Think about the last time you felt extremely motivated. Maybe you watched an inspiring video. Maybe you heard a story that completely changed your perspective. Maybe you saw someone else's transformation and thought, if they can do it, I can do it too. For a few hours, maybe even a few days, everything feels possible. You suddenly have a vision of the person you want to become. And that's a powerful feeling. But here's the problem. The version of you that feels motivated today isn't the version of you who has to do the work every day. There will be another version of you tomorrow. A tired version. A distracted version. A stressed version. A version that doesn't care about your goals for 5 minutes. And that's the version your strategy has to work for. So let me ask you something. What happens to your goals when you don't feel like working on them? Do they disappear? No. But your motivation might. And that's exactly why we need to stop treating motivation as the foundation of consistency. Instead, we need to build something stronger. A system. Now, when I say system, I don't mean some complicated productivity framework with 20 different rules. A system can be incredibly simple. If your strategy says, I must complete a perfect 45-minute workout, you might skip the entire thing. But what if your minimum is 5 minutes? Suddenly, the decision becomes easier. 5 minutes doesn't sound threatening. You can start. And once you start, you might continue. But even if you don't, you still protected the habit. You told yourself, I showed up. That matters. Because one of the biggest dangers isn't missing a day. It's turning one missed day into a new identity. You miss Monday. Then you think, I'll restart tomorrow. Tuesday becomes Wednesday. Wednesday becomes next Monday. And suddenly, a one-day break has become 3 weeks. That's why your system needs a bad day version. Your normal target might be 30 minutes. Your bad day target could be 5. Your normal reading target might be 20 pages. Your bad day target could be 1. Your normal writing target might be 500 words. Your bad day target could be 1 sentence. The minimum isn't there to make you successful in one day. It's there to make sure you don't disappear. Because sometimes the most productive thing you can do is simply keep the habit alive. Now let's talk about another problem that quietly destroys consistency. Decision making. Think about how many decisions you make every day. When should I work? What should I work on? Should I exercise now or later? What should I read? Should I study before dinner or after? Should I write in the morning or evening? Should I do it today or tomorrow? Every decision creates an opportunity to negotiate with yourself. And we're incredibly good at negotiating with ourselves. You tell yourself, I'll do it later. Then later arrives. You say, I'll do it tonight. Then nighttime arrives. You say, I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes another negotiation. A system removes some of those decisions. Instead of asking, when should I write? You decide, I write for 10 minutes at 8 a.m. Now you don't need to make that decision every morning. You've already made it. At 8 a.m., you sit down. That's it. And this is why routines can be so powerful. They don't necessarily make you more disciplined. They simply give you fewer opportunities to argue with yourself. But there's another piece of the puzzle that is even more important. Your environment. Let me give you a simple example. Imagine you're trying to read before bed. But your phone is sitting right next to you. You pick up the phone. You check one message. Then one video. Then another. Suddenly, 30 minutes have disappeared. And you say, I have no self-control. Maybe. But let's change the environment. Put the phone across the room. Put the book on your pillow. Now when you get into bed, the first thing you see is the book. You don't have to become a completely different person. You simply change the environment. And that's an important lesson. Sometimes the best way to improve your discipline is to need less discipline. If you want to exercise in the morning, put your clothes beside your bed. If you want to write, leave your laptop ready. If you want to study, prepare your desk before you go to sleep. If you want to drink more water, keep a bottle beside you. Make the behavior you want easier to start. And make the behavior you don't want slightly harder. Because your surroundings are constantly influencing you. You might think you're making independent decisions all day, but your environment is quietly suggesting what you should do next. A phone on the table says, check me. A television turned on says, watch me. A book sitting beside your bed says, read me. Your running shoes beside the door say, go outside. The environment doesn't force you. But it creates friction. And friction matters. Think about pushing a heavy object. When it's completely still, getting it moving takes effort. But once it's moving, continuing is easier. Starting a habit can feel the same way. The hardest part is often not doing the activity. It's beginning. That's why making the first 2 minutes easier can make such a big difference. Don't tell yourself, I have to write an entire article. Tell yourself, I'll open the document and write 1 sentence. Don't say, I need to study for 4 hours. Say, I'll sit at my desk for 5 minutes. Don't say, I need to read this entire book. Say, I'll read 1 page. The smaller the starting point, the less resistance your brain has to overcome. And once you're moving, continuing becomes easier. But there's something even deeper happening here. Every time you repeat an action, you're not only changing your behavior. You're also collecting evidence about yourself. Imagine you tell yourself, "I'm not a reader." Then one night, you read one page. That's evidence. The next night, you do it again. More evidence. A month later, you've been reading almost every night. Now the statement begins to change. Maybe you start thinking, "I guess I'm actually someone who reads." That's different. The same thing happens with exercise. You don't have to suddenly declare, "I am an athlete." You simply exercise. Then you do it again. And again. Eventually, your behavior starts supporting a different identity. You're becoming someone who exercises. You're becoming someone who writes. You're becoming someone who studies. You're becoming someone who keeps promises to themselves. And that last one is especially important. Because consistency builds self-trust. Think about how you feel when you repeatedly tell yourself you're going to do something and then don't. After a while, you stop believing yourself. You make another promise, but somewhere in the back of your mind there's a voice saying, "Let's see how long this one lasts." Now imagine the opposite. Paragraph. Then decide when you'll do it. Not, "Sometime tomorrow." Choose a real time. 8 a.m. After breakfast. after work, before bed. Then decide where you'll do it. And finally, decide what you'll do on a terrible day. Because your system shouldn't only be designed for the version of you who slept 8 hours, woke up happy, had no problems, and has unlimited energy. Your system should work for the real you. The tired you. The busy you. The distracted you. The imperfect you. That's the version of you that needs the system most. And maybe that's the biggest misunderstanding we have about consistency. We think consistency means never breaking the routine. But real consistency isn't perfection. Real consistency is recovery. You miss a day. You come back. You lose focus. You return. You have a bad week. You restart. You don't need to be perfect. You need to become good at returning. Because life will interrupt your plans. That's guaranteed. The question isn't whether you'll ever fall off your routine. You will. The question is, how quickly will you return? And maybe that's the question I want you to remember from this entire video. Not, how can I become motivated? Not, how can I become perfect? Not even, how can I reach my goal faster? Ask yourself, what can I make so simple that I can keep doing it even when motivation disappears? That's the real game. Because motivation is exciting. Systems are boring. Motivation feels powerful. Systems feel ordinary. Motivation makes you want to change your life overnight. Systems ask you to read 1 page tonight. Motivation says, I'm going to become a completely different person. Systems say, do the next small thing. And that's why systems win. Because your life isn't changed by what you intend to do. It's changed by what you repeatedly do. Your goals matter. Of course they do. They give you direction. They give you something to aim for. But once you've chosen the direction, stop staring at the destination. Look at the next step. Then take it. And then take another. 1 page. 1 paragraph. 1 workout. 1 study session. 1 focused hour. 1 small promise kept. Then another. Eventually, those actions stop feeling like things you're forcing yourself to do. They become part of your life. And that's when something really changes. You stop saying, I need to become a reader. You simply read. You stop saying, I need to become a writer. You simply write. You stop saying, I need to become disciplined. You simply keep your promises. You stop waiting for motivation. You build a life that doesn't depend on it. So the next time you feel like you're failing because you don't have enough motivation, pause for a moment. Maybe you don't need another motivational video. Maybe you don't need another productivity app. Maybe you don't need another complicated routine. Maybe you just need to make the behavior smaller. Make the time specific. Make the environment easier. Remove unnecessary decisions. Create a minimum for bad days. And then repeat. Again. And again. And again. Because a small action repeated for a year can completely change your life. But a massive action performed for 3 days probably won't. So don't ask yourself how much you can accomplish today. Ask yourself, what can I repeat? Don't ask, how motivated am I? Ask, what does my system say I do today? And don't ask, when will I finally become the person I want to be? Start collecting evidence that you're already becoming that person. 1 action at a time. Now I want you to do something. Think of 1 goal you've been struggling with. Maybe it's reading. Maybe it's studying. Maybe it's fitness. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's something completely different. And instead of telling me your goal in the comments, tell me your system. Don't say, I want to read more. Say, I'm going to read 1 page every night before bed. Don't say, I want to get fit. Say, I'm going to exercise for 5 minutes after I wake up. Don't say, I want to write. Say, I'm going to write for 10 minutes at 8 a.m. Because your goal tells me what you want. But your system tells me what you're actually going to do. And that's the difference between wishing for change and creating it. If this video made you look at consistency differently, subscribe to Bookish Hubby. Because here, we're not just interested in ideas that sound good. We're interested in ideas that can actually change the way we live. So remember this. Don't wait for motivation. Make the action smaller. Make the environment easier. Build a system. And keep showing up. Because you don't need to change your entire life tomorrow. You just need to win the next small decision. And then do it again tomorrow. I'll see you in the next video.